In just a few short years, podcasting has gone from a niche medium to a global phenomenon. And as we head into the second half of the decade, the numbers speak volumes. Podcasting is not just growing, it's exploding, and with that growth comes tremendous opportunities and challenges for creators, businesses, and listeners alike. Let's take a look at the emerging global trends. Recent research indicates that the global podcast industry is on track to reach $41.8 billion by 2030, with listenership growing rapidly across multiple regions. Let's pick out some of the most compelling data points and trends. Global penetration. Podcast listenership has expanded beyond its early strongholds in the US and Europe. Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa are emerging as fast-growing markets. In fact, countries like Brazil and Indonesia are seeing listenership growth rates that outpace more established markets. Language diversity. English remains dominant, but podcasts in Spanish, Mandarin, Portuguese, and Hindi are gaining significant traction. More creators are producing content in regional languages, tapping into underserved audiences who are eager for fresh, relevant voices. Mobile-first audiences. Mobile phone usage continues to be the primary way people consume podcasts. In India and Africa, for instance, the proliferation of affordable smartphones and improving internet infrastructure has led to a podcasting boom. As a result, we're seeing the rise of shorter, more snackable podcast episodes tailored to on-the-go listeners. The growth of podcast listenership isn't just a trend, it's a reflection of how people now consume content in an increasingly busy world. Here's why we're seeing this surge. Firstly, audio is intimate. Unlike video, podcasts allow listeners to engage with content while multitasking, whether during their commute, walking the dog, or even cooking. This intimate and personal nature has led to higher listener loyalty compared to other mediums. Secondly, niche content is king. From true crime and personal development to hyper-specific interests like plant care or coding, podcasting allows creators to cater to even the most niche of audiences. As listeners seek out content that speaks to their unique interests, podcast creators are responding by deepening and diversifying their content offerings. And thirdly, creators are brands. Many podcasters have now built strong personal brands and communities around their shows. This trend is particularly strong in the US and Europe, but creators in emerging markets are quickly following suit. We're seeing more podcasters leverage their platforms to launch products, book deals, or live events, expanding the scope of what podcasting can do. While the growth trajectory is promising, there are also significant challenges that we, as platform providers and industry leaders, need to address. Monetization. While podcasting has found tremendous success in listenership, monetization models are still evolving. Subscription-based content, dynamic ad insertion, and listener support via platforms like Patreon are growing, but there's still work to be done in aligning the right monetization models to match audience behaviors across different regions. Our model of creators sharing in advertising revenues is unique in the market and aims to tackle this issue. Discoverability. There are only an estimated 4 million podcasts currently available, but as more creators enter the space, discoverability will become an ongoing challenge. Platforms like Klaxon AI must innovate with better recommendation algorithms, enhance search functionality, and curated content to help listeners find shows they'll love. That is the challenge we have set ourselves. Localization of content. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to podcast content. A successful strategy for growing podcast listenership in Europe won't necessarily work in India, for instance. We need to be mindful of cultural nuances, language preferences, and local market trends as we continue to expand globally. The potential of podcasting remains largely untapped, especially in emerging markets. For content creators, the time to invest in your podcast is now. Focus on building a loyal, engaged community by being authentic, consistent, and always putting your listeners first. If you're thinking about launching a podcast, now is the perfect moment to ride the wave of global growth. At Klaxon AI, we're committed to empowering creators from all corners of the world to tell their stories and connect with audiences. As the industry evolves, we'll continue to innovate and provide the tools needed for creators to succeed, whether it's advanced analytics, monetization options, or distribution to every corner of the globe. The future of podcasting is global, and it's just getting started. So let's build it together. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to turn your newsletter or blog into a podcast quickly and easily, then visit our website at klaxon.ai and get started. Cheers.